Hello, good evening. Welcome to Fall Podcast 119. You don't deserve rock and roll. It's a fall showdown. All 525 songs going head to head. We are in round two, 60% of the way. My stat man informs me, boys, thanks to the annotated fall, few and all them what fall, but not the Fall In podcast, the rotters. Get out of here, you Johnny come latelys. Joined by Lord Saggy Temples. How are you, Ezra?
Sagging at both ends.
The Remington Walker. How you doing, Alistair?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, Mr. Brendan.
What's your T-shirt there?
WFMU.
WFMU, best radio station in the world, isn't it? And we'll be joined later by Marky, Tiny, Tim, Twatwam, and Treebeards or something. And joined by our good friend of the show, Rodney McLeod. How
are you doing,
thank you,
Brennan. Can't describe it. Doing well.
Fantastic. Well, we won't do a big long how you got into the fall, as it's been as this is not your first time, but give us a brief fall update, because you've had run-ins with fall tribute bands and your love of the fall has deepened with each new round.
I was at a noise music festival not but 3 weeks ago and bumped into the first The Fall t-shirt I've seen in the wild, which was fun. A young guy, probably early 20s, said his dad saw the band 30 plus times over the years. And he had a Falls Head Roll shirt on. So we struck up a conversation. He said, this might be controversial, but it's actually my favorite album, is what this chap said to me. So that was neat to have a first in the wild encounter. And I actually just put feelers out to see if anyone would want to create a fall tribute band in Brussels. And much to my surprise, 0 replies back. No responses whatsoever.
Good. That's how it should be. So tonight we've got Monocard versus Weather Report 2, Frickened versus Xmas with Simon, and Victoria Train Station Massacre against Quit iPhone. So let's kick it off without further ado with Monocard of Ersatz GB. Bloody fall. Ezra, coming to you first. What's Monocard do or not do for you?
Yeah, it's probably the highlight of the album, isn't it? Ersatz GB. I struggle to think of any other tracks on that I actually like. Nate Will Not Return, of course.
Nate's one of my favorite too, yeah.
Yeah, is a absolute triumph of a track. But yeah, Cosmos 7, if I'm remembering, is also not bad, and Happy Song is a very nice outlier. Outside of them, I think that all the rest of it's a bit meh for me. Monocard is an example of the band in their latter stages at their strongest. Smith's lyrics and performance are fucking tip top. I love the synth, which the synth sounds there. I'm pretty certain they are generated by an MS-20, because you got that kind of really saturated resonant filter going there, which is just really wobbly and screaming away. And it's got a bit of a doomy kind of Sabbathy feel to it, which is not something that you would really associate with the fall at any time. the lyrics, I think, are excellent. Give me grasp of monocard. Is it bread or is it yeast? Will it with it give assist at my peril and at my demand? Reading them the first time, I felt like monocard was some kind of payment thing, right? Like a credit card or something. I thought that was the subject, but it turns out that it's actually a reference to a medicine called Monosorb and Chemidur in the UK and Monoket in the USA, which treats angina by dilating the blood vessels, and it is produced by a company with the catchy name of Drug International Limited. And so that's kind of been... Go ahead.
Sounds legit.
It sounds proper legit, doesn't it? Like, I would like to change my name by deed poll to Drug International Limited. It's interesting because, you know, I'd always thought that the kind of fixation on health maybe came in on the previous album, but it seems to be the lyrical concern for 3 or 4 albums in a row, doesn't it? Because we got this, Your Future, Our Clutter, Sublingual Tablet, where it keeps popping up, isn't it?
Tablets.
But yeah, you know, I think for me, the thing this song stumbles with is that it's maybe a little bit too long. Could have possibly been a bit shorter. Could have had a bit more oomph in the low end as well, but I think this is one of those albums where the recording process was a little tricky, if I'm remembering correctly. So maybe it wasn't done under the best of circumstances. But yeah, a very great example of late period fall for me.
I think so. I would agree that it's probably up there as one of the best on the albums, but the fact that I'm not a huge fan doesn't say a lot about that album. Robert, how about Monocard for you?
It's a bit of a monolith. Love it. The big plodding kind of drum and bass intro. Not drum and bass, the genre, but drums and bass. Absolutely menacing Marky Smith on this. Tons of tension, as Ezra was pointing out, with like the synths, little chimey, echoey guitar bits going on. But I will be honest, the first like 10, 15 seconds, it kind of sounds like the bass and drums haven't quite locked in. And they're both just kind of like dragging behind each other. And it almost feels like it even slows down a BPM or two in that first bit. But I actually like enjoy that effect because it was slightly disorienting for a man of my ilk. The thing that for me actually like sells this track and like brings it together is just that like I didn't know how to. I was thinking about this before the show. I was like, how do I even talk about this without just playing? But that kind of higher guitar melody, the ding, 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 that thing going on. To me, without that, I think this song would just be an absolute mess. But the way that weaves in and out, to me, like really ties this together as a track. And for me anyways, like elevates it, to like the best on the album and one of the best of kind of the later stage of their career. And as you know, I have a lick of the tism when it comes to stats and things like that regarding live performances. Performed only 10 times, and I think almost all 10 of them are actually on YouTube because I did a quick look through. And to me, like live, it just seems like, you know, as Ezra was saying, like almost like a doom metal Sabbathy track. And the live versions to me just sounded absolutely incredible. So big fan of Monocard, one I had largely overlooked and had not been on the Rob McLeod fall playlist, but it is now. Quite like it.
Indeed. Why don't we have a listen? I didn't find a particular one, so I'm just choosing one at random, and we'll see whether this one's a doom fest. Oh yeah, that's sweet. I'm absolutely with you on that, Rob. And I do think Greenway's guitar pulls it all together. Love the synth on it, and I just feel like the album version needs a little bit more oomph. If it had a little bit more dirge and was deeper and heavier, but that's still probably the doomiest the Fall ever got. And imagine it's that era where you're not sure whether Smith's letting the lads off the, a little bit more of a free rein, because that's their background. I understand that they both, like Kieran and Dave Spur, I think came more from a hard rock, heavy metal kind of background. So good on him. Good on him indeed. Here's what Leon says. The Fall very much on trend with the sludge metal. Nice to hear Elaine having the space to stretch out. Would have liked more in this vein. And yeah, that's true. And it's up against Weather Report, which is another long, expansive one, but in a very different style. It's almost like they're trying on styles and genres at this time. And we did notice that a little bit with some of the later records. Stu, on the other hand, said, Monocard, love this one. Sabbathish 4 with a slow groove and resonant squeal of Eleni's MS-20, I think. Building and dueling with the guitar. There's a respect for space on this you don't often see in a Fall track. Marks full of gargle and grumble, and it sounds lovely. The guitars sort of remind me of Slint in places, but as if Slint were content to sit in one place for an age. I also love the line felicitous malefactions, which is beautiful. It's weird because I had Slint down for the other track. I had Slint influence down on Weather Report. So interesting that we're both seeing those boys referenced. Alistair, how about you with Monocard?
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? Pretty much everything that you've all said. It's got that kind of like stoner rock groove to it. It's all right. Quite like the solo riffing on it with the guitar. And yeah, and my notes here was kind of like putting that they're getting away more than with more than they would done in the past. I think that would have been like binned if it had been 10 years before and somebody come to the table with it. But I do like the keys at the beginning of it. It sort of reminds me of Nag to start off with, like, every time I listen to it, and then I'm disappointed it's not. But it's good. I reckon it could be faster though.
Faster. You wouldn't have wanted it doomier. You don't want it heavier. Drop D, drop C, drop B.
Well, what you can do, you can do the 4/4 timing and the 8/4 timing and just play around with things, can't you?
You have you want.
Dynamics. That's what it is.
It is.
Drum and bass jungle remix.
Brilliant. Sure, that's exactly what Mark would have wanted. Takes its time, doesn't it? Some nice synth noises at 4 minutes, but more menace, please. Or minimal, yes. How can we stand firm against the process and the malefactors cropped by night, nocturnal surprise, felicitous malefactions? When will I get grasp of Monocard? Is it Monocard? Is it bread? When will it begin? I walk into village, fate-infected trenches in Hounslow, the true chiefs, guerrillas and apprentice of Chiswick, and my peril and at my demand Monocard from Prussia and Chiswick. Just absolutely splendid. As Michael says, I haven't listened to hers that much and was not familiar with this track, but when it ended, I could have happily listened to it for another 8 minutes, which is a pretty good sign. Whereas Max says, come on and start, damn you. I feel like Smith shouting at the band in that live version of Strychnine. Why don't you fucking play it? Come on. But all in all, it seems like we enjoyed that one. Any more thoughts on Monocard, or shall we move on?
Well, if you played it faster,
go ahead, answer.
Sorry, if you're going to play it faster, get it over with quicker.
Let's see what that would have sounded like.
Reminiscent of Hittite Man, the guitar parts at least. Mm-hmm. And I would prefer it to Hittite Man, I think, in a pinch.
Oh, I don't know if I'll give you that, but it's got something unique about it. But Alistair's demanded that we listen to it at double speed. And
I've got a kitten and an knife here.
Awful, terrible idea.
It's a slowed down Pearl Jam track.
It is. That's what you wanted, isn't it, Al?
Not Pearl Jam, no.
Let's have a listen to Weather Report 2.
Security.
The victims would change my life. I walk down the city streets see weather reports.
Weather Report 1 and 2. Robert, Weather Report, is it a good one or a bad one?
Well, according to the band, it's one of those rare songs, especially from later in the career, that actually existed live over 5 years, played 47 times between 2010 and 2015. To me, this is actually one of the real gems from this week. I fell in love with this track. To me, plenty of overlap with their other song, Bill is Dead, which is one of my top 10 favorite fall tracks. Found the verse, that kind of like chord progression, the kind of like listless vocals for effect. And a lot of the, Bill is Dead is the, like, these are the finest times of my life. This is the greatest time of my life. Weather Report 2, and you gave me the best years of my life. Like very similar themes, similar melodies. But love the complete dramatic change at the 2:45 mark. I found, although that kind of like noisier second section didn't really like go anywhere necessarily, that juxtaposition of the first half and second half won me over. Absolutely love it. And I love, if you just isolate it, like what the bass and the bass synth are doing in that first half, it's doing anything but the actual melody that all of the other instruments are doing. And I would have loved to have just been in the studio for that one. Like, yeah, that's exactly what we want on bass. Play none of the notes that anyone else are doing or that you expect. So this one won me over. Highlight of the week for me.
I absolutely agree. Beautiful harmonics and that sweet, kind of arpeggiated, kind of very slow sliding. Yeah, the bass is all over the place, but it's sliding as well and doing a lot of things that just doesn't happen in fall songs. But man, I would have loved to have way more of this stuff. Although it might have got too much, it might have got a bit syrupy. But when I look at the rest of Your Future Our Clutter, and it's got so many of those meat and potato songs that just kind of, for me, run into each other. OIFS Showcase, Mexico Wax Solvent, Hotcake, Slippy Floor, Chino. They're all just like, I don't know. After like these years of listening, I can't really pick those apart. And I know I'm probably committing some terrible crime here, but Weather Report just stands just above and beyond the dark horse. And then, when it breaks down, this is just, it feels like a 15-minute epic, and then you look and it's 6 minutes long. It's shorter than Monocard. It's shorter than Age of Chang or something like that as well. It's like, and we got the second half just start like we're straight into like Panda Panza Panza solo Smith territory almost, but that is fucking gold in my book. Absolutely. Alistair, Weather Report?
Well, like this kind of stuff, don't you, Brendan? It's quite nice the way they do the sort of like, your fairly standard guitar riffy, songy kind of thing, and then mash it up into complete electronic art noise. It reminds me a bit of, like, the guitar at the beginning reminds me a bit of Sebado, and Rob's already kind of like mentioned the he gave me the best years and the best days of my life thing, which I was thinking, what's all that about? It's a bit of a mystery, isn't it? And then it was just probably about Malcolm Allinson managing Man City or something like that. But I have no idea. But then he goes from the normal bit of song into some like industrial electronic stuff, which I mentioned before, and he's still banging on about Malcolm Allinson. It's art.
It is art with a capital T. Hello, how are you today? I thought the vitamins would change my life. I walk down the city streets, I see weather reports. It's like an ice rink. Made a very, very big mistake. Nobody has called me sir in my entire life. You gave me the best years of my life, and I watched Murder, She Wrote at least 5 times. Ezra, how many times have you watched Murder, She Wrote?
Well, I used to watch it with my grandparents every whenever it was on. And yeah, and to complete that lyric, I watched Murder, She Wrote at least 5 times. The cast deserved to die. The whirlpools go wider and wider of words spoken. And you gave me the best years of my life. You gave me the best years of my life. I mean, this is more than like one of the best fall tracks of their later period. It's one of the best fall tracks, full stop. It's just absolutely fucking fantastic. And yeah, you know, like what Rob was saying, it's a big Smith lyrical motif. Like we've also got like the classical Never Felt Better in My Life, and there's others which I'm not going to bother traipsing my memory for right now. And it's gorgeous, you know, like the first part, yeah, it's lovely and melancholic, and it's got that beautiful kind of Slint-esque kind of feel to it, and the kind of, he does like kind of backing vocals for himself through like a megaphone or something. It's just really lush. And then it goes into this like weird post-industrial oblivion of a track. And like, you know, I was listening to it carefully today because the first few times I heard it when it last came around, I was like, wow, what the fuck's going on here? That's magic. And I reckon it's probably a drum machine just with the volume like boosted all the way up, played through a few distortion pedals or something. But it's such a nice sound. And yeah, you know, with both parts of the song, I struggled to think of any other bands or artists who've done anything that sound like that, even in today's like overmined days of like recording and playing. And
I'd say Trans Am did something like that.
Yeah. Some stuff, but they didn't make it sad. They didn't imbue it with that like kind of gut punching emotion about football or whatever he's singing about. And yeah, you know, like it kind of reminds me of some of the stuff on, yeah, like you were saying, some of the solo stuff, but also some of the stuff on the Unutterable. And it's weird that, you know, and a bit of a shame that really in the last period, I struggled to think of any other tracks where we get that kind of electronica, because in the second half, I don't think there's anything of the band going on. I mean, maybe the band are playing it along with Eleni, but to me, it sounds like it's all electronics. It's like a super distorted drum machine, and I think there's probably a synth going on over it and some other effects. And in some ways, it's a shame that maybe the band didn't all quit again and like force him into doing an album of like that kind of electronic shit, because I would have definitely been first in line to pick that up. Very great, this track for me.
Yeah, it is an outlier in that sense. And just as we've said so often, a road not taken, and we're just left to think and dream of a future with that kind of clutter in it. It reminds me of Arab Strap is one of the closest I think that gets to this sometimes. But lovely stuff. Leon says as evocative and ghostly as anything in the catalogue. Mez's conjuring of the R&R death rattle. Michael says starts off lovely, and I would have preferred if it had fed out at the 3-minute mark. I'm not with you there. But Stu, this might be the best thing they did in a post-real new F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. LP world. What a bold claim. And it stands tall with the earlier material too. He's calling it. The low bass throb seems to cluster on a couple of notes, keeps everything anchored like it can't escape the gravitational pull. Like the last track, the synth work and guitar work are really integrated and feel like they're commenting on each other, and it all gets sucked into a throbbing and even more static black hole. Lyrically, it's fucking heartbreaking in a way I can't articulate. That's why I hope to get back, and that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking forward to. A masterpiece. Got away with words, hasn't he, old Disco Stewart over there on the other side? Max says, shark sandwich. No, he says more. That's a Spinal Tap reference. Max says, much more interesting. This and Hurricane Edward could be chapters from the same audio novel. Interesting. So, which way is it going to go is the question. Robert, which way?
Monocard, thank you for your service, but today it's a Weather Report 2 vote for me.
Indeed. One of the things about a lot of people on Fall said, it might be about the weather and bits like that. But in England, I don't think you'd ever say the words weather report. Like that would only refer to the band. Am I wrong there, chaps? Ezra, would you ever hear anyone say weather report?
No, it's weather forecast, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, well,
that would be
forecast is technically looking forward. A report is looking back.
You're always the technical wizard on this sort of thing, Alistair. I wish I'd have asked you before I made that faux pas. Which way are you going, Al?
I'll go with the report 2, please, Brendan.
Weather report as well. Ezra, which way are you going?
Yeah, it's got to be weather report.
Easy, isn't it? Same for me. Same for Max. Same for Stu. But Michael E, it's gone for Monocard. But, in another world, in another showdown, Monocard would have had a good chance, but it got dominated. And I'm a little bit frightened to say that maybe the next showdown might not be equal either. But let's start with a song off the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. debut LP. In fact, in many ways, the very first song off the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. debut LP.
Someone's always on my tracks, and in a dark room you'd see more than you think. I'm out of my place, gotta get back. I sweated a lot, knew the violence. I got shears pointed straight at my chest. Move slow when you count it. And I sweat. I'm not just stepping stone. You're trying to make your mark.
I am not, or I am. Yes, I am. Are you, Robert? Are you frightened?
Big fan of this. Really like it. And in particular, like what sold me on this is like just the sound aesthetic of the recording of the witch trials. Like that to me is analog recording warmth. Pretty well like at its absolute best. That drum tone, the like loud kick drum out front. Just I could listen to this for years on end. Just absolutely beautiful stuff going on here. And me, of course, being the like nerdy guy, I was intrigued by this performance wise. A staple of their live performances until it was released. Played 41 times before the album came out. And then once the album came out, just played 3 more times after that. And then abandoned for the rest of their career, which just seems like an absolute travesty to me, especially if you're just getting into them and such a great tune gets abandoned. But yeah, to me, just aesthetic wise, song wise, what can you do with 4 repeating ascending chords? Plenty, apparently. Like this is just awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So apparently Smith wrote when he was 16, possibly referring to a Fritz Leiber story and other maybe other dark, moody books at the time, and some people have likened it to even Taxi Driver. This kind of like this person who's living in the shadows and looking at the world with a very dim view. Great detuned everything. Tumbling fills, Burns is absolutely on fire. Brilliant. Brammer's guitar is lurching and menacing. It's pure Fall. In many ways it is, for me, the absolute pure Fall song. But Max says this as well. I've just heard it so many times. He said it suffers a little bit from the heard too many times. I'm not sure. I love it. Phenomenal minimalism led by that Snoopy keyboard. I don't know. I don't know where I am with Frightened at this point, other than it's an absolute gem. Ezra, what do you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is fucking phenomenal. For me, like this is the highlight of Live at the Witch Trials by a country mile. It stands out so far from pretty much all the rest of the album. I really fucking love Brammer's guitar here. He's got that whole kind of like wiry kind of like strafing the fretboard, really, really nasty sound. Reminds me somehow of like if Scott Walker grew up a poor man with no teenagers to love him and was fueled by Cheap Speed and Tenant Special, then he'd have probably wound up sounding like this. And for me as well, like there's something really like, from a kind of a sociological perspective, it's so interesting hearing stuff like this these days. And it's one of the interesting things for me about the fall and the kind of, the changing times is that, back in those days, it was kind of cool to be a misanthrope, right? It was kind of cool, and like he, and that wasn't really a new thing because he's taking notes from like Knut Hamsun and all these people that are stretching back to the dawn of modernity, where like you like grow up hating everybody and scared of everything. But nowadays, if you want to take that road, you have to fucking listen to Jordan
Peterson, like Andrew Tate or Peterson, like Andrew Tate or like Andrew.
I used to be a misanthrope, but I never hated. Because I feel like there is some kind of honor or poetry in being a misanthrope, and I feel like Smith nails it perfectly and beautifully in this song and in the lyrics to this song. And if he wrote it when he was 16, I'm fucking impressed because I spend hours looking sideways to the time when I was 16. I feel trapped by mutual affection, and I don't know how to use freedom. Like. Whoever it is who's out there who's listening to Jordan Peterson, I think there's more help for you in that lyrical couplet than the entirety of Peterson's body of work. Like just fucking think about that, right? Very, very top draw for.
Get back to the old days when misanthropy was just general. It was for everyone. Reclaim that. Someone's always on my tracks, and in a dark room, you'd see more than you think. I'm out of my place. I'd got to get back. I sweated a lot. You could feel the violence. I got shears pointed straight at my chest, and time moves slow and you count it. I'm better than them, and I think I'm the best. Are you looking at me? Well, there's nobody else here. Are you looking at me? Or words to that effect. Leon said, frightened, best track on Live at the Witch Trials, in it. Whereas Michael says, an early classic is a contender for the best song on the first LP. The lyrics are very good and it is a catchy number. My only issue with it is the same I have with all of Live at the Witch Trials, which is the production. But this is less of an issue to me when I hear this song in isolation compared to putting it on the full LP. Indeed, production awful. Alistair, what do you think of this track?
Well, I've heard it once or twice. It's quite a nice one, isn't it? Lovely sort of grooves going on. It's all been mentioned before with the drums and the bass combining together quite well. And then you've got the sort of wonky, chimey, gnarly guitar with Mr. Brammer, like on top form. Some brilliant Frank Sidebottom style keys. What's to complain about here?
Nout. Sounds like gold, doesn't it? Stuart says, almost sounds slight and throwaway to the ears after WR2, but this is a cracking number too. The cheesewire guitar sounds bell-like and FM-ish somehow, and it sits strangely with the swinging push and pull of the drums and the straight-ahead keyboard work. It drips paranoia like many future Fall songs will. An early classic for sure. Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't feel the same way as he did about the slightness of this song, but I felt that about Quit iPhone when I listened to that and Weather Report back to back. But I kind of get it, but it's interesting that he's comparing it less favorably to that late era gem. So, anything more to add, or shall we move on to Xmas with Simon? And as you know, I did play the Monkey Stepping Stone. Smith has copped to it being a slowed down version of that, which for a moment kind of, even though I love that song, made me think, maybe it's not as good, but I don't think it matters.
I think he's taking the piss.
Xmas with Simon. I'll have him. Get a fool of me.
Do not fret, rest your head, Christmas time is here. Castle in the snow, a sudden white sign. No explanation for the lights. Empires will tumble in. Pity the people in the desert. Jesus did. Pity the people who've had too much dessert.
Nice old house. Robert, Xmas with Funky Si.
Believe it or not, never performed live this one, believe it or not. And speaking of, I think I threw out the word juxtaposition earlier, comparing that to Frightened and being like, hey, in about a decade, this is what you guys are going to sound like. It's pretty wild change in sound. For me, having listened to some of host Brendan O'Leary's music, this to me sounds like a very Brendan song. This overall structure, the lyrical delivery, to me, this could be a Brendan O'Leary cover song, in my personal opinion. My notes for it, though, nothing wrong with this, but for me, nothing overly right either.
Thank you. Ezra, do you think it's like my music, which is of no importance, which is no good?
Of the music of yours, I've heard none of it sounded like this. I'm being diplomatic. I'm not going to say none of it sounded as good as this. It's wonderful that you ended that last section on Frightened with, is he taking the piss? And then we get into this, where he's clearly taking the piss. But wait a minute, is he actually taking the piss, or does he actually love Christmas? It's very hard to know. And actually, I've got to completely disagree with Rob. I think this is an absolute triumph of a song. For me, it's like vying for pole position with Darlene Love's Christmas Baby, Please Come Home, the best Christmas song of all time. It's just fantastically fun and funny and cheesy in a perfectly beautiful way. Castle in the Snow, Southern White Sign, no explanation for the lights. Empires were tumbling. There is no explanation for the lights, right, though? I mean, there isn't. And according to the annotated Fall, he says, pity the people in the desert. Jesus did. Pity the people who had too much dessert. And that's a really nice lyric. But when you were playing it just then, what I heard was, piss on the people in the desert. Jesus did. Piss on the people who had too much dessert, which is arguably better. And I think it's great that it sounds like that. As you're going to get to, the other great line on here is like, no set number to the amount of diseases.
I certainly am. Let's get to that now.
Born in a barn, surrounded by animals, no set amount to the number of diseases, died at the age of 33, which is as good a time as any. White outside, bowl of light glows, slow march of the humble, wrong shall fail, and the right prevail. Big old nice old house, it's Christmas, in old English village Jesus. It's that time again, it's Christmas, and those films again. It's just peerlessly funny and wonderful. This really does warm the cockles of my heart, this track.
Indeed. And you know how old Smith was in 1991 when this song came out?
33.
It was indeed, and a third. But as you referred to the line about the no set amount of diseases, as we know, he lifted it from George Coleman's Bongo Joe. So let's have a listen to where the original of that came from.
Passion we call a dog catcher. Take him out and shoot him. And it's a little doggy. And it's a little doggy. Oh, oh. Now we'll take man to be our friend. We found him on Skid Rows, eaten by the louse. Some eaten by fleas. No set number as to how many diseases. He's so hungry you can count his ribs from the outside.
Brilliant, brilliant. I mean, just the breadth of his theft is remarkable. That's great stuff there. Do not fret, rest your head. Jesus had no fear. Nice big old nice house. Leon says funky size magic. So yeah, apparently Si did play all the keyboards on this, and I don't know if he did all the instruments, but it would make sense given the name. The most festive of all Fall members is Funky Si. Stands somewhere alongside all those other Christmas songs, as he does indeed. Michael E., a bit of a throwaway, cheery Xmas song, and I welcome it for what it is, whereas Max says, at first this seems like a novelty item, and it is, but it's a grower with some great lyrics, so many, I couldn't even pick one out. Jesus, it's Christmas. Alistair, what's it do for you?
I really like this one. It's exceptionally cheesy, and it was full of hooks. There's loads of stuff going on, and you know that any song where they just go Jesus like that, it's definitely ticking boxes for me. But yeah, the old sort of like composition of it and everything, I could really imagine Boney M doing a cracking version of this. It's not a weak song. It's like there's actually strength to it. And there's intentional whistling as opposed to just having dentures a bit loose.
Indeed. But what about Stu? Is Stu going to get on board with this? That's the real test here. He says, funny shit. And there's something deeply blasphemous about the way they sing Jesus through that 90s dance drum loop, which of course I enjoy. The only problem is I don't want to listen past the 1 minute mark. Good joke though. Fair enough, Stuart. Fair enough. And obviously that line earlier about Jesus pissing on people in the desert is from one of the Gnostic Gospels. It wasn't in the actual Bible, so I'm not sure we can really count it. So it's come to that time, frickened up against Crimbo with Simon. Do we really have to go through this? Yes, we do. I'm gonna leave Al to the end so they can put his protest vote in. Which way are you going, Ezra?
Well, on any other day, Frightened would get my vote, but as this is the last of the Christmas songs standing, I feel like I'm obliged to vote for Christmas with Simon.
I believe it is the last one. Robert?
We're 95 days out from Christmas. We might see a Christmas miracle occur here, but I am going with Frightened.
Yes, indeed. And you won't be surprised to see that Max, Stu, and Michael have all gone for Christmas with... Oh, no, Frightened. Read that wrong. I'm going for Christmas with Simon. Of course I am. Alistair, do you want to pull it equal?
Yeah, I'm going to do some shit out. We'll go for it.
Yeah, well, I was lying. That's still 4-3 you've lost, but it doesn't matter. It was good fun while it lasted, wasn't it? So this isn't a fall-in podcast. Exactly. So the final showdown of the evening is Victoria train station massacre against Quit a Phone. Steady on. Everything sounds better backwards, doesn't it? Is it future or is it past? Alistair, what does Victoria train station massacre do for you?
That one, yeah. It's a great glam stomping fall tune, isn't it? Like, you know, it's dead short, no fat on it at all. Vocals, brilliant. Yeah, and then you got the mad production bit that they do, which you know, it's not unusual for the Fall to do that. Like, you know, harks back to things like Ben Sinister and you know, the deliberate sort of like shooting yourself in the foot kind of thing for a laugh. But as a statement, quite often it works quite well. But yeah, lots of little fills in there as well, which Funky Si's probably jealous of. Won't like do any of them. Actually, no, I don't think Si likes fills think he just likes it and stuff. But yeah, great little tune, dead short. And yeah, you got the precog shit, haven't you?
Oh, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah, glam. Meat and potatoes glam though for me. It's yeah, Smith's head and shoulders above everybody else on this track. He's just gurgling and shouting. He's having a go, but it's done in a minute and a bit, and it's of kind of little consequence. Yeah, I don't think the lads stepped up to the level of angst and anger that Smith had got, the bile at the architectural changes that had happened to Victoria train station, a place where I was once chased. Me and my younger brother was chased through that station by a group of thugs because the 11-year-old Kieran O'Leary dared to wear a Manchester City tracksuit in Manchester. Good times, good times. Robert, have you ever been to Victoria train station in Manchester?
I've yet to go there. But now that I know about this song, I'll take a selfie when I'm there and send it to you.
It's better than Piccadilly. What do you reckon to this?
Another one, never performed live, this number. It's a shame. Agree with all of you. Glammy stomps, all the nice stuff. Good late fall straight ahead boxes ticked. This feels like it was still an idea that was coming together. Like maybe there could have been other parts to it and a little bit more evolution, but they're like, yeah, that's enough. Like, let's just reverse it at the end and like move on to something else. My old radio DJ boss and mentor, Mike Bruff, once told me, get in, get out, don't stay any longer than you need to. And I think this song pulls it off well. And I think serves as a little like moose-bouche or a little like palate cleanser between other songs. So an interesting quick listen.
Yeah, and you do have to wonder, it being on New Facts Emerge, whether that was due to other factors or whether it was conscious to make it that short. But it kind of does everything it needs to do, really. So maybe it was that. What do the lads over here think? Leon says, I would like an a cappella version of this. Yeah, I agree. And Stu, sleazy and glam-like, and Mark's lovely deranged bark for a minute or so until we get sucked into a bit of psychedelia and then fucking spat out on the other side. Great. Whereas Max has less love. Ich rausch dem Macht das Studio aufcut, as they might say in Belgium, certain parts. What about Ezra? What does he think of this precog gem?
Yeah, I mean, this is essentially a skit track, right? And on the level of skit tracks, I think I would prefer WMC Blob or Where's the Fucking Taxi Cunt or pretty much any of them over that. Like, there's something about the band, the last band that he was with, that they do rock in a way that I just don't actually like very much. It's like my least favorite kind of rock. You can hear it better on the other track on this album, which sounds like Up a Rope or whatever it was by the Rocket from the Crypt. And it's just not how I like my rock and roll. But I'm not even sure why, but it just does nothing for me. And it's not to say that they never rock. You know, we've got, they did do Bury, which I felt was a pretty fucking rocking one. They did do... what was it? The Sparta FC. That was them, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, yeah. That's much earlier. That's the earlier lads.
All right, yeah, all right. So there we go. You see. So yeah, I feel like the later incarnation, the last incarnation of the Fall, were at their best doing things like Jobless versus Married Couple or whatever it was. Jobless 30s versus Married Couple.
30s, yeah.
Like the weird proggy stuff, the folky stuff, that's always more interesting for me. So yeah, this, like, and again, it's always Mark who steals the show, and here he steals the show. His vocals are just fucking perfect. The backward stuff is nice, but to be honest, you could have had Mark hammering a bunch of empty beer cans, and probably that would have done more for me musically than this rather tepid rock backing.
I get you. Like, yeah. It's the meat and potatoes thing, and it's littered through all those last 5 or 6 albums. But then, you know, you get those weird outliers. Like we just had Weather Report. We got 9 out of 10 on this record, and Couples versus Jobless. All Leave Cancelled, Kinder of Spine, Alton Towers. All of those kind of just like on every. There's like 6 meat and potatoes tracks, and then like 2 or 3 wild ones, and it's like, give me more of the wild. Yeah, so as we alluded to, there was some trouble because it came out the same week that the kind of bomb went off at the MEN Arena, which is right next to Victoria train station. There's Ariana Grande concert, and they were asked to potentially change the title, and Mark was not happy with this. It's not your fucking job, and I said, call it Victoria Butterfly then, or Butterfly Suitcase. You shouldn't have to deal with it. And that's the problem nowadays. I used to have to sit in Victoria train station in the 80s with shit cafes, shit football, but you could look at it, and now Manchester Council fucking painted over it. Apparently it was originally called Victoria Train Station Architectural Massacre in the earlier days. Monstrous carbuncle is what I say. It is up against Quit iPhone.
Why you on Facebook? Why do you need second-hand friends?
I only just realized today another song on that album is called They Own the Media. Oh, Van, you really did fall off quite hard there, didn't you? But enough of that. We're trying to listen to... No, not that one.
I had the letters Rocky Romeo shows. I wish I was home. I'm home. It was home. But this click on the phone. Click the phone. Just leave it alone. Stop looking at that phone. Stop looking at that bad phone. Alright. And well, don't you see me style. You're walking away. I'm shouting about your beds. Just come quit on the phone. Just don't quit on the phone. We're here, just don't roll. Like you as I stare into the morn and I see the citadel of media city shining bright.
Beautiful. That's the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T tribute band from Flanders called Les Automnes. Then I'd say autumn in French. Robert, what did you think of the original Quit iPhone, not that beautiful cover that we just heard?
To me, this one is 100% about Mark's voice carrying the whole thing. I love that subtle distortion on his vocals that just kind of like magnifies the like gargling, flailing vocal cords going on. And, you know, it took me a few listens to kind of get what's going on. Like at first, just sort of like fun in the sense of like, I feel like he's just like missed the plot on this. He's entering Van Morrison territory, possibly. This is like bizarre stuff. And yet there is something enjoyable about it. And maybe similar to, I think it was Ezra's comment about the Christmas track earlier. It's like, is this a silly one? Or does he really, is he being like multiple levels of ironic here or something like this? There is something enjoyable. Played 24 times between 2015, 2017. So clearly the band liked bringing this one back as well. I know you guys do a good job of like scouring the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T websites for things, but the one bit I liked when trying to look into the lyrics is on the annotated F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T, they said, you know, thanks to Thop Daverty of the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T online forum for transcribing the lyrics. And it says, he admits uncertainty about much of this, and I can scarcely do better. Then there was a comment which I felt mirrored what I was struggling with here. It says, the lyrics occupy a twilight zone between words and scatting. The effect is transfixing in a particular way that one can only imagine Marquis Smith pulling off. That mixture of humor, rage, message, anti-message, sense, and nonsense, which has been, in one form or another, the signature of the fall music for 4 decades.
Indeed it is, and I agree with you. Smith is the absolute star, and that's sort of why I made that generic AI song there, because I was hoping it would sound exactly the same as the Fall, because it's, although the backing track is kind of a jittery amphetamine kind of like jerky version of the Meat and Potatoes stomp, it's a little bit more wiry. It just falls flat. It just doesn't, and that hey hey hey, which I usually delight in anything Eleni does, is just irritates me. And again, yes, Smith's vocal delivery is brilliant, and he might be taking the piss, but he's not, is he? And he's like Van, like, why don't you quit iPhone? And to me, it's like, okay, old man complaining about technology, sure. At least if you're going to do it this way. If you're going to do it right, said Andrew Ridgely. Ezra, what does quit iPhone do for you?
Yeah, I mean, like Victoria train station Massacre, it doesn't do a great deal for me, unfortunately. I'm practically dead in terms of age, so yeah, I'm completely with him on the whole quit iPhone side of things. I think we should just quit everything and go back to like hammering rocks with our dicks or whatever it was we did back in the day. Like on the same album, we've got Fiberbook Troll, which for my money is a proper fucking banging tune and a proper shafting of the whole technology craze that's sweeping the nations of the world. This one, like you say, the music, it's not great. His vocal part is good enough to make it listenable for me, but it's not as great as it could be. I do like the lights of Disenfranchised. Why don't you leave it alone? Shout about the back gate and styrofoam. Just leave it far alone. Stop looking at iPhone. Stop looking at iPad phone. There's not much to it. I don't remember what's going on with Fiberbook Troll, but Fiberbook Troll has got a strong hook. It's pummeling. It sounds like fucking Hawkwind after like a few bottles of Buckfast and whatever else. It's a much nicer track. This one doesn't do much for me.
No. And for all of you out there, Hammering Rocks with Our Dicks by Ezra will be out in all good bookstores at the end of the month. Alistair, what about you? What about us?
Indeed, Shipman. Right, listen, I don't mind this one. It's not one of my favourite ones on Sublingual, but it's a fairly solid LP, I think. It's Sublingual, but yeah, Smith's clearly pissed off at someone here, which probably might explain for the amount of live performances as was explained earlier. But yeah, I think it's technology rage, but I can kind of get where it comes from on this, because like when it was written, I didn't have an iPhone. I was at uni, and it's just like, I don't know, just people being ignorant as fuck, like just staring at the phones instead of having a conversation. And it's a good way of preventing a conversation. I don't want to talk to you, I'll get my phone out. So I can see why it's a bit annoyed, but there you go. But all in all, it's all right. And they did like the singing at the end. That was completely unexpected. Quite nice.
Yeah, me too. I thought that was great, that bit at the end, Media City, because of course Media City is built on Salford Docks, right, where he was loafing around and pushing papers and pretending to be a real hard-working chap. And the letters that you wrote me, I just couldn't hear the phone. Quit making the phone, my eye muscle is bright in the light of disfranchise. Everywhere, why don't you tell them about styrofoam? Just quit iPhone app. Whatever, it's good, it's great. Brilliant, but I would have loved it to be over something a little bit more substantial. What do the rest of them say? Stu says, the production on this one is a problem. I think if they wanted to use the hey backing vocals, they needed something completely different with the mix. As it is, the guitars buzz like something in the studio is rattling, and the vibrations, it sounds thin and smashed up. Other than that, he's a pretty standard garage rock number. I don't mind it. The only bit I don't have reservations is the vocal performance, which is great. Leon never trusted any form of remote communication, did he? He knew the evil of the phone. While Max says, if memory serves me right, when this first came up, Ezra had a very funny rant against Jean-Claude Van Morrison, the Belfast from Belfast, calling him a fat tit, which is the best thing I can think of to say about this. Yeah, Michael E. didn't even bother on that one. He'd already clocked out by that point. So it's time to do a vote. Can't vote them both out. So which one's going through? Robert, what are you doing?
I'm voting for the Kinks one, that Victoria track.
All right. How about you, Alistair?
I'll split.
Bloody splitter. What about you, Ezra?
I'm going to vote for Quit iPhone because if it goes through, then at least I'll get to listen to some live versions, which could be quite good.
I'll tell you what, if it doesn't go through,
though, you will end up listening to more Van Morrison.
True.
I think that's going to happen whichever way we go, Alistair.
It's
so
inevitable.
yeah, I have time for that, unfortunately.
Inevitable.
It is, isn't it? That's our favorite band. That what we've just watched. That's our favorite band.
It's probably filmed on an iPhone as well.
Oh, the bittersweet irony. Max always said, I'm tempted to abstain, but begrudgingly quit iPhone. They are both shit, though. Whereas Stu says Victoria 2.8, quit iPhone 2, so he's gone for Victoria. And Michael E has gone to Victoria because it is shorter. Ezra went with quit iPhone, right? And which way did you go, Al? You told me?
Split.
Which way did you go, Rob? You went with Victoria. I'm also going with Victoria. And so Victoria does indeed go through. The chances of us ever hearing any live versions, quit iPhone. Sail down with it. So Weather Report, Frightened, and Victoria train station Massacre go through to round 3. And do not despair, gentlemen. Round 3 is merely 15 short episodes away, give or take some specials.
Brendan, can I make just one suggestion? Maybe a little asterisk beside Victoria Train Massacre, and then when it comes up, just mention that it put out Quit iPhone in the previous round, and then we can chuck in all the Van Morrison and live versions that we want.
There you go. Asterisk.
Well,
there. Will we remember? Who knows? Only time will tell. Well, Robert, thank you for joining us. It's been a delight as always.
Thank you for the invite. Love what you folks do. Keep doing the Lord's work.
We'll see you again soon, Ezra and Alistair. I shall see you in 7 short days to put out more of those second-rate late LP filler tracks. Bye.
See ya.
We're gonna find this